Welcome back to another Blue Collar Blitz. I'm your host, Connor Johnson. So last week, or whenever that was, it was talking a little bit about my personal league. Today, we're talking about something I like quite a bit, especially over the last couple of years as a Patriots fan, rookies. So rookies are one of those things where, maybe about 10 years ago, you might know one or two that you might even think about drafting. So now it's a little different. Now a rookie wide receiver comes in and can be a wide receiver one. So, I think about guys like Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. I don't remember if Malik Neighbors was a wide receiver one his rookie year, but he definitely made a big impact. Brian Thomas Jr. So it's there. It's the guys like Zeke, Saquon, all those guys. So Jaden Daniels. So today, like I said, I am no scout. I watch a lot of college. I don't break down a whole lot of all 22. Like I've said, I'm not a nerd, which is fine. If you are a nerd, do whatever. I totally get it, and I respect the guys who do sit down and watch. But for me, it's more of an eye test thing, and I'll go over what's worked for me and what hasn't. So a little credentials. Like I said, I'm not a total moron. I'll go over a couple guys I hit on and a couple guys I missed. So for quarterbacks, one of my and I'm a little biased because he got drafted by the Patriots, but Drake May. Back in 22, I was huge on Drake May. I thought he was better than Caleb Williams when that draft was even coming up. It was 2 years out, and I was like, this guy's going to be awesome. I have a type when it comes to quarterbacks. I like a bunch of different kinds, but I tend to really gravitate to the really taller, strong-armed guys who are a little mobile but not necessarily a running quarterback. I do like running quarterbacks too. I loved Lamar Jackson coming out. I didn't really like Anthony Richardson, but there are guys who are runners that I do like a lot. I liked Jaden Daniels as well. But if you had to have me make up one in a lab, 6'4", 6'5", big arm, that's the kind of guy I like. So I love Drake May. I thought he was great. I thought he had a ton of arm talent. And I thought he could move when he needed to move. I liked his leadership style. He seemed like a good dude. It didn't seem like he'd be getting in much trouble. So that was a guy I was right on. And I even drafted him 101 ahead of Caleb Williams in a couple startup not startups, but in a couple rookie drafts. I also like Jackson Dart quite a bit. I liked him coming out of Ole Miss. Now, he is not that stereotype. He was more of that, gunslinger kind of guy. I like gunslingers as well. So I liked Jackson Dart, and that was one I was right on. One I was really bad on was Will Levis. I thought Will Levis was really good. I thought he was going to go I thought he got a pretty good shot to go start and play on the Titans. He looked good that first start, and then everything kind of went downhill, which kind of blew. But I liked Will Levis. I still think he could service as a backup, but I doubt it now. Or I shouldn't say doubt it. I'll bet he could, but if you're looking for fantasy value, probably not. Running back-wise, I have it written down, but running back, I really was a big fan of Amari and Hampton. And, it's kind of hard to really get a good grip on what he was. I liked Genty, but I wasn't I didn't think he was anywhere near Bijan's level, okay? So, I liked him, but I liked him in the sense of, I would like to draft him, but I wasn't going to, give up a whole lot of picks like I would have for Marvin Harrison Jr. The year before. So running backs for me personally are kind of one of my blinder spots. I don't really do well with running backs in redraft or in Dynasty. Obviously, you can say, oh, do you want Bijan Robinson? And I'll be like, yeah. But as far as picking them up off waivers and drafting, it's not my strong suit. Mostly receivers and quarterbacks are kind of the strengths one. Then tight end, if you know how to scout tight ends, then that's good for you, because I sure don't. But so let's just skip to wide receivers, who I was right on. I really liked Jamar Chase coming out. Obviously, everyone liked him. It was a little nerve-wracking when, he sat out for a full year, but when people were kind of on him about drops in training camp. I'm like, yeah, okay, if you're going to sell, I'll buy, because he just has that kind of talent. Malik Neighbors, I thought Malik Neighbors was going to be a stud. When he went to the Giants, I didn't love that, but I did truly believe in the talent. And then Rome Odunze. I was never a Rome Odunze guy. I like him. I like his mental makeup. He's a great dude. I understand why he was ranked so high. There's something about his game I always thought was a little off, and he has good games with Chicago, but for some reason he just didn't strike that true wide receiver alpha 1 with me. If you drafted him 105, 106, and Dynasty rookie drafts, then I guess you're not too... I don't know. It depends on who you picked him over. You might not be too broken up about it, but yeah, I was right on him. Who I was wrong on, I thought Marvin Harrison Jr. was going to be just a generational stud. Obviously, he's still pretty good, but, it's whether it's the offense or Kyler Murray or whatever, it just, for whatever reason, hasn't seemed to work out. In a lot of drafts, I was giving up multiple first-round picks to get him, and then in, just normal redraft, I was even drafting him, and, if I had a late first-round pick, I even thought about it, or early second, I would do it there. But I was wrong on him, and let me just pull out my notes. There's one other guy I was wrong on. Let me just pull it up. Never mind, I can't find it. But so I was wrong on Keon Coleman as well. I also thought that Keon Coleman would be at least serviceable. Now he's not even startable. So we're going to get into the 2026 rookies that I like and the ones that I don't like. And just know, when I say I like and don't like, it's not, or let me rephrase. When I say I like, I obviously like. When I say I don't like, it doesn't mean that I think that they suck or that they're going to be a bust. Like, I'm one of those guys, I always say, no professional athlete really sucks. It's really easy for, some mouth breather sitting on his couch, living in his mom's basement, to be like, this guy sucks. It's like, well, he doesn't. He's in the NFL. But when I say who I don't like, it's kind of like who I probably am not going to be drafting a whole lot of. So that's a little bit of my credentials. Like I said, I don't go too deep into the film. I watch it. I watch on Saturdays. There's guys I hear about and I look into. But it's a lot of just watching TV tape, little highlights, and I just look for certain little traits. There's stuff on receivers that I think translates really well. So let's get into it. All right, so let's start with quarterbacks. So there's obviously, it's kind of a one-guy race this year with Fernando Mendoza. I like him. I don't love him. I'm not really going to talk about him because, there's anywhere you can go get some analysis. He's the prototype that I like. I don't dislike him. He just, I don't know. There's a guy that fits the prototype a little bit better that I like as far as a dart throw. So let's get into it. My favorite quarterback coming into this year was Garrett Nussmeier out of LSU. So there's a lot of things that, can go against him. He had a really rough year. He got benched. He's kind of short. He's only 6'2". But there's something about his game that I like. He's got a lot of just balls, for lack of a better term. He's got a very strong arm. He's not like, the Drake May, Caleb Williams, Josh Allen strong arm, but he's got a serviceable arm. He can make some really tight window throws. I like just the energy he plays with. And, he sat in front of Jaden Daniels, or behind Jaden Daniels, so he got to see at least a pro at work. I like him. I think he's got a lot of potential. If he gets drafted somewhere where, I'd say Miami, kind of like with Quinn Ewers last year, where you knew he might get a chance with Tua, I think that might work with him. Where, if he gets to a spot where he might be able to start a couple games and then compete, or maybe a Tyler Shuck would be a better example, I would like that. If he goes somewhere like Baltimore, then that's different. But I like Nussmeier. I think he's really talented, and I think he can fit the ball in really tight windows. The second guy I like this is the guy who fits the more of the prototype, Sawyer Robertson out of Baylor. Big, tall, kind of can move. He's got a big arm. He's got an accurate arm. Obviously, coming out of Baylor, he's not accurate in the sense of pinpoint, but he's accurate enough. Probably could use a little bit of fine tuning, as all prospects could. But I think, again, if you got him in a spot where this is a dart throw, by the way. This isn't like a first 2 or even 3 round guy. I mean, if he goes to a good landing spot, maybe in round 3. But I plan on getting a lot of Sawyer Robertson and putting him on a taxi squad or in a redraft. I probably would stay away from him, but I would just kind of keep an eye out. Just maybe as the season goes on. I like him. I like that prototype. I think he's got a good arm. I think, it'll depend, but I like him a lot. The third guy, and this is another guy who kind of fell out of favor from everyone, that's Drew Aller. Drew Aller out of Penn State. Here's the thing. Here's another prototype guy. And I know it sounds kind of funny. I keep saying prototype and they're all white. It doesn't matter if you're white or black. These guys just all kind of happen to be white. But, it doesn't, I don't care as far as that goes. Just those big, tall, 6'4" guys. Another example would be Dante Culpepper back in the day. I love that kind of guy. Randall Cunningham. Randall Cunningham was big, tall, massive arm, and was quick as lightning. So I know it might not sound great when I'm going through the list saying prototype. It just kind of happens to be happenstance in this. Like I said, I don't discriminate. It doesn't matter black or white. I just like that size. I like the big size. I like the big arm. And if you can run, that's great. So Drew Aller can't really run. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Drew Bledsoe, if any of you guys remember him, where he can kind of move, I guess, but you're not saying hey, Drew, go, run for a 3rd and 10. Not that really many guys do that anyway, but not a big runner. He's really raw. He's another project guy. He's probably more polished than a Will Levis was coming out, but it's probably a similar thing there. I mean, he got hurt this year, and he probably should have came out last year. He probably would have been a top 5 pick, if not 1 last year. Kind of cost himself by going back to school. But, I mean, I don't know. Penn State hasn't really had a whole ton of great receivers. I don't know. There's something about him. I like taking shots on guys like that. He's still got pedigree. I believe he was a 5-star, but here's his thing with him. He always had a great amount of potential, but he just never really put it together. But he's worth a dart throw. To me, in my opinion, I think he's worth a dart throw. Like I said, big arm. If he gets with a guy who can kind of help him put things together, and I don't want to use the Josh Allen comp, right? Because it's that's kind of a 1 in a million unicorn example, but just a coach who can kind of help him, kind of solid up on some of those mechanics and stuff like that, then I think he has a good shot. It also depends on landing spots. I keep going back to guys maybe going to a place like Miami where they might have a shot just because, I don't know what else they're doing. Maybe Arizona. I have a list of places where I feel like I'd feel good with them going, and that'll be later in the show. But anyway, so those are my quarterbacks. So Drew Aller out of Penn State, probably a 3rd-round pick at best. And same with Sawyer Robertson. And probably same with Garrett Nussmeier. But if he gets a Tyler Shuck draft capital, I'll bet you might see him, whether it's super flex or 1 QB, it might make a difference, but I'll bet 2nd round, maybe, probably, if Nussmeier goes high, which I don't think he will, but say he goes to Arizona in the 2nd or 3rd round, I'd probably take a good shot on him. Now we're moving into running backs. So running backs, I know I said I wasn't going to talk about Fernando Mendoza, so I don't want to contradict myself here. But Jeremiah Love. I think Jeremiah Love is by far one of the best prospects I've seen come out in a while. I know people say, well, where does he land when you talk about these big guys? Like, I feel probably as good about him as I did Bijan. Bijan was a little bit different. I thought Bijan was a stud. I thought Saquon was a stud. I would say Saquon and probably Zeke. I felt better about than with Jeremiah Love, but it's not like night and day here or apples and oranges. Like, I felt better, but if you told me that, would you take Jeremiah Love at 101 in a rookies fantasy draft or dynasty rookie draft or top 2 rounds in a redraft, I would say yes. I would feel comfortable. I felt comfortable doing it with Bijan Robinson. I know that didn't really work out well with him. So redraft will kind of depend on where he goes, but I see a lot of mocks putting him to the Saints or Kansas City. And I think those two probably make a ton of sense. I wouldn't be surprised if that is true. I wouldn't be shocked if he went to one of those two. I also wouldn't be shocked, I guess, as draft season comes along, look out for him to go to Arizona. I think that could maybe work as well. But Jeremiah Love, lightning speed, tremendous on his feet. He almost has, I heard one of the fantasy footballer guys talk about it, he almost has like too many moves that he doesn't know what to do with. Like where it's almost like he can just like, juke around you 5 different ways and he'll get tangled up trying to juke you out, but he can do it, He's got tremendous contact balance. I like how he runs. He's got that home run speed, and I also can see him going in between the tackles and getting those nitty-gritty yards. So I like Jeremiah Love a lot, as everybody else does. But I would feel extremely comfortable picking him at 101 in a dynasty draft, rookie draft. And, in one league I tanked for him because I think he's that good. Second is Kaytron Allen. Kaytron Allen out of Penn State. So most people are going to hear of Nick Singleton. Nick Singleton, pretty raw prospect, but he's, got a lot to like. Kaytron Allen is just your meat and potatoes guy. I heard someone, I forget who, I think it was one of the Dynasty Nerd guys, compare him to Nick Chubb. I think that's a fair comparison. I don't think he's going to turn into Nick Chubb by any means, but he's got that kind of style where, he's a tough runner, he's a strong runner, and just everything about him I like. He's a meat and potatoes running back. I don't expect him to go out and rip an 85-yard run, right? But just kill him with, he can make a big run, but I really more expect him just to keep, churning the legs, keep it going. I like him. I can see him going really anywhere, like a place like Minnesota. To me, for any running back, I think Minnesota is a great spot to go. But if he went to Minnesota, say like the 3rd or 4th round, I would love to draft him in the 2nd round of a rookie draft. And then Jonah Coleman. I like him a lot. I like Jonah Coleman a lot. He's short. So, sometimes people don't love short running backs. I don't really have a affinity either way. But he's got great contact balance, runs hard. He's not like lightning speed, but he's not slow. So, he's kind of got the right stuff. I like him a lot. I like that kind of running back. He can pass catch. He's just kind of got, a lot of people compare him to Doug Martin, which I think is a fair comp, but it's that kind of build where it's just a muscly guy who's making plays. Who I don't necessarily like, I don't love Jadarian Price, same school, Notre Dame. I like him. I think he's good. He's explosive. He's fast. I'll bet he'll go start somewhere eventually. He's just not one of these guys. I've seen a lot of people talk about him as a first-round rookie draft guy or second. I think he's second, but probably late second. In my mind, there's something about him. Sometimes those guys behind the guys, like Roschon Johnson behind Bijan Robinson and stuff like that, sometimes they don't always work out. It's not one size fits all. I like his profile. It's just I don't love where he's getting drafted. And then Nick Singleton. Talked about him. He's got explosive speed. He's very raw. Everything about him is raw. So if he goes somewhere, you're going to want it to be somewhere where he's probably not going to start right away. I don't think they'd ever draft him, but my New England Patriots, if they were ever moving on from a Ramondre Stevenson next year, or they just wanted to get another back in the building, another set of camp legs, and you could let him learn behind, and then in 2 years it's Singleton and Henderson, then yeah. But like where he's getting drafted, well, I shouldn't say where he's getting drafted, just kind of like how he's talked about and viewed, I don't think he's going to necessarily pan out. I like everything about his skill set. It's just kind of a measure of where he goes and how he develops. All right, now receivers. This is my favorite prospect in the draft. Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State. I love Jordan Tyson. Loved him last year coming into the year. I just love everything about him. I love how he moves. I love how he runs. He's explosive. I don't want to comp anyone to Justin Jefferson because that's just not really fair. But he reminds me a lot of a little bit of an extra bouncy or a little bit extra... Bouncy is the best word I can use. Justin Jefferson or Garrett Wilson. He kind of moves like... I'd say probably Garrett Wilson's probably a better comp. But just the way that they move, the way that they, their body control in the air. He has excellent body control. A lot of people contribute a lot of his not huge production in some games to bad quarterback play. I don't really care. I mean, sure, maybe. It probably is. But just from a prospect perspective, I love everything about him. If I didn't need a running back and I had to pick 101, I would trade back to 102 or 103, depending on how the other receivers get viewed, and just to take Tyson, and I'd feel comfortable. I love Tyson. He's my favorite prospect in the draft. A little injury history makes you a little bit nervous. So if you're, say you're drafting him, I'd probably just, depending on landing spot, there's one thing, I'll talk about it now. The places I don't like for any receivers to go are the Jets, Steelers, and Panthers. Jets, I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory. Just really anyone on the Jets, I don't really want much of. I've been burned by Garrett Wilson, and I'll still probably draft him, but until they figure out quarterback, I mean, what are you supposed to do? So if we'll see. Steelers, Aaron Rodgers, if he does come back, he's not a guy who trusts young receivers, ever. And the few times he did, it was a guy like Romeo Doubs and a little of Christian Watson. And forgive me, I'm sure he did a little bit in Green Bay, but he doesn't really play nice with others, especially young guys. So I don't want anyone going there. And then Panthers, because you have 2 first-round receivers, and I mean, I like Leggett, but I mean, not like first round like him, but like you got Tet and Leggett there, and you got Jalen Coker, and I know they've still talked about wanting another receiver. I probably wouldn't like that landing spot. I also probably wouldn't like the Giants for Jordan Tyson. I'd like him for a different receiver, Carnell Tate, a little more. I think Tyson is a little much. Reminds me a little bit of Malik Neighbors. So, I feel like if they drafted Malik Neighbors, you'd almost have Jordan Tyson, you might just have, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. If they're both studs, then who cares, right? So, but he would not be my preferred Giant. The places I would love for him to go, though, I just had it pulled up. I'd love him to go to Tennessee. I never was a Cam Ward believer. He's proved me wrong. I like some of his skills, and I think they're set up, especially with Brian Daboll, to be a better offense this year. Tennessee, I'd like him in. Washington, connected to Jaden Daniels. Don't really have to say much more. I know there's Terry McLaurin there, but, he's older. And if from a dynasty perspective, I think Washington's a tremendous spot. Redraft, maybe not as much, but why not, right? Deebo Samuel looked great last year. I mean, I know Terry was out a lot. Miami, I think Jordan Tyson and Jalen Waddle would be incredible. They could also just be like the hamstring is always hurt squad where both of them are coming off the field once a game. But, let's think positive. Buffalo, almost anybody on Buffalo I'd be okay with just because, attached to Josh Allen. That's probably the one I'd least like, to be honest with you, though, as far as the ones that I like. And then KC. Same thing with Mahomes, but I think they need a really reliable receiver. I think that he would do excellent with Patrick Mahomes. So, next guy, Jeremy Bernard. Jeremy Bernard out of Alabama. Love him. There's nothing sexy about him. You want to talk about meat and potatoes? That's him. Meat, potatoes, green beans. He's not going to wow you with the speed. He's not going to wow you with anything. All he's going to wow you with is being consistently good. I love him. I love everything about his game. I struggle with a comp for him because it's really hard. I don't want to just steal comps that I hear from other podcasts, right? And if I use someone, I want to give it credit. When I watch him, he's just. I'm trying to think. I don't want to say T. Higgins. He kind of reminds me of like a shorter T. Higgins, where like. You throw the ball, he's going to catch it. He's not going to wow you, like I said, with a whole lot of things, but he can make some great plays, and he's always there. You know what? Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers is who I would comp him to. Just nothing sexy, but if you have him on your team, you're going to love him. I love Jeremy Bernard. And then Chris Bell. Chris Bell, I like. He just tore his ACL. When you're going to hear a lot with Chris Bell, I think this was Dynasty Nerds, they said this, and I agree. It's A.J. Brown. He reminds me a lot of A.J. Brown. He's just a big physical freak. He could also be like Xavier Legette. So, do that as you may. I wouldn't draft him in the first round. I might do higher second, depending on his landing spot. But if you do draft him in Dynasty, you're doing a long play because you don't know what he's going to be like off the ACL. I do not recommend him in redraft. So guys I don't like, again, when I say don't like, it doesn't mean I think they suck. It just means guys I'm not really huge on for drafting in fantasy, and I've been wrong before, right? But Chris Brazzell is one. I don't want to be a helmet scout. For those of you who don't know, helmet scouting is like, it would be like saying, well, Drake May played for UNC, so he's just another Sam Howell and Mitch Trubisky. It's just saying who they played for. Well, those guys suck, so he's going to suck too. That I don't want to be like that with Chris Brazzell out of Tennessee. But here's the thing. Tennessee runs a very different offense, and it works for them in college, but it's tough translating. I know people say he's different. He's got everything you want. He's massive. He's 6'4", 6'5". I believe he's 6'5". We'll see at the combine. He's got crisp route running, good hands. Just looks the part. X. I just don't love Tennessee receivers. And until one of them comes into the league and really kind of proves me wrong, I'm probably going to stick there. But I'm rooting for him because I do like the Volunteers. Other one, Casey Concepcion. I like him. I get why he's liked, but I'm not huge on him. I can see him being like Curtis Samuel. I look at him like Curtis Samuel, who I loved, funnily enough. I loved Curtis Samuel coming out of Ohio State. It's just, is he going to be a gadget guy? I doubt it. I think he's better than Curtis Samuel, or will be more productive than Curtis Samuel. Like, if you say he went to the Bills where Curtis Samuel is, I think that would be a good spot. He's just not a guy I look at and say, that's going to be a wide receiver one. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Wan'Dale Robinson. He's not that small. He's better than Wan'Dale Robinson. He's not that small, but that kind of guy. And like I said, it's not like I sit here and watch him scout, so I could be way off base. But that's kind of the first name that comes to mind. And then Denzel Boston. Denzel Boston out of Washington. There's just something about him. He reminds me of Rome Odunze when I watch him, not because they play even remotely close to the same. Just like, there's just a thing when you watch him, I'm just like, I don't see it. And it just could be instinct thing. I really don't have anything else to say other than he doesn't remind me of Rome Odunze play style like, or, and again, it's not a helmet scout thing because they both played for Washington. It's just when you watch him, he looks like a guy who's going to be good in college, but when he gets to the NFL, I can see that being a problem, which is not a bad thing to say. Like, I mean that not endearing, but in a good way. Like, if you're great in college, guess what, buddy? You're better than 90% of us, right? But sorry, I had to have a sip of the old energy drink. Don't have someone to talk other than myself. So let's just go over landing spots. For Nussmeier, I like spots like Arizona, the Rams, Minnesota, Indy. I don't like Jets. I don't like Dolphins. I don't like Cleveland. Jeremiah Love can go anywhere, but I love him on the Saints, Chiefs, Cowboys is another one, or Vikings. Jordan Tyson, I already went over it. I don't like for Jordan Tyson, Jets, Cardinals, Steelers, Giants, Panthers. Carnell Tate, let's just go over. So I'll read over Carnell Tate. Well, actually, we'll just talk about Mekhi Lemon and Carnell Tate too. Carnell Tate out of Ohio State. I like him basically everywhere that I talked about with Jordan Tyson, and I don't like him in all the same spots. Carnell Tate is everything you like. He's basically Jeremy Bernard on steroids, is how I'd say it. He's meat and potatoes, but he leaves a lot more. But he has a lot more extra features. So I'd say he has the sauté onions. He's got the special bolognese or whatever those chef dweebs put on their steak. I like it raw. Okay, pause. My steak raw. Maybe a little bit of salt. Okay, but but he's got like the sautéed onions. He's got maybe a PBR, not a Bud Light on the side, right? There's nothing to not like about him. He's solid. He's an Ohio State receiver. Like I said, helmet scouting you don't want to do, but when it comes to Ohio State receivers, it's almost impossible with them and LSU, really. Ohio State has a little better of a track record. I think LSU has a higher ceiling, guys. Like, we can get into wide receiver a different time, but when it comes to Ohio State, receiver, draft him. I like him. He's a stud. He's really good. The only thing I'd question is he going to be like a Marvin Harrison guy where maybe he just goes to a spot where he's not getting peppered with targets. He's maybe leaned on in a little different way. I can't see him being a bust NFL-wise. For fantasy-wise, I can't see him being a bust, but I might not see him being like, a wide receiver 1. I could see him being a low-end wide receiver 2. And I don't see him going past a high-end wide receiver 3. And I doubt he'd be... I don't even think he'd hit wide receiver 3. It just kind of is a matter of, I think he's a wide receiver 2 just wearing that scale. But if he went to a place like Cleveland, which I hate anybody going to Cleveland, but for some reason, sometimes guys who go to Ohio State go to Cleveland. They're used to the weather. They're used to just that. Sometimes they succeed. I guess it depends on who's throwing them the ball. We shall see. But I wouldn't mind him in Cleveland because I like, you kind of forget Cleveland has produced a receiver in Josh Gordon. But, I can see him going to Cleveland and succeeding. And then there's Mekhi Lemon out of USC. You're going to hear Amon-Ra St. Brown all over the place. I can see it. He's a dog. He's an absolute dog. I love him. He's a little shorter, but he just does everything well. He's a great route runner. He's tough. He's strong. Good catcher. I can see him going to a few places and just loving where he goes. I can also see him going to a place I don't love. It all kind of depends. I like him. I don't like. I love watching him. I love everything about his game. If the Patriots got him, I'd be happy. But he's not a guy in fantasy I'm going out of my way to necessarily snag over a guy like Jordan Tyson or maybe even Tate, depending on landing spot. I like him. He's more of kind of depends on where he goes. Like I said, if Jordan Tyson went to the Jets and Carnell Tate went to the Giants, or no, sorry, I'm drawing a blank. If they both went to bad spots, then yeah, I'd consider Lemon. Like if Lemon went to the Rams and he was just going to learn. I wouldn't expect him to be Puka Nacua, but if he could, he'd be a great spot for the Rams where, sit behind Adams and and Puka and probably get in on 3 receiver sets. And, I'm sure he'd get a lot of play time. Then that I'd feel pretty good about. I'd consider taking him. He's just, I know everyone thinks he's JSN and thinks he's Amon-Ra. I get it. I love him. I love the prospect. I'm just not there yet on a fantasy level. I don't think I'd take him over Tate or Tyson, especially in a vacuum. But I know a lot of people view him as wide receiver 1. That's just for me. All right, guys. Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. Like I said, I am no scout. I watch some All-22 sometimes for like 10 minutes, and I get bored. A lot of it's just TV copy, highlights, and basically looking at measurements and trying to understand. Like, when you watch a guy and you just watch any kind of tape, and like I said, highlights are tough because if it's all touchdowns, then you're like, oh, this guy's great. But just when you watch, clips, you just see how they move. Like Jordan Tyson, when you watch how he moves, it just translates. It always translates well. So thank you guys for tuning in. Sorry, I think it was a little more than a week. I usually just get in my car and do it. So thank you guys. Have a good week. This is Connor Johnson signing off with Blue Collar Blitz.